Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to talk about my views towards the COVID passports that are coming out in the UK. And basically, the UK is requiring that people have a COVID passport in order to attend large events like theatres, possibly cinemas and festivals as well. Now, I find this quite concerning. The main reason that I find this quite concerning is the fact that in the UK we have around 80% of our population that has already been vaccinated, and I think that as we've got so many people vaccinated already, we're nearing herd immunity anyway, and so it seems kind of ridiculous to force people to get vaccinated in order to live a kind of normal life and be able to enjoy activities that the majority of people are able to enjoy when we're kind of nearing herd immunity as, a society anyway. And also, the fact is that the most vulnerable members of our society, like older people who are more likely to actually die from the virus or get seriously ill from the virus, have already been vaccinated. And so it kind of seems rather ridiculous, seeing as we're nearing herd immunity and seeing as the most vulnerable members of our society are vaccinated, to enforce the unvaccinated population to get vaccinated. Okay, so the second thing that I'm really concerned about is the fact that people can't ethically object to the COVID vaccination. And I find this really sad because people have very valid ethical concerns about the COVID vaccination. For example, from a kind of certain vegans are concerned about the COVID vaccination, essentially because the animals that the vaccine were tested on were actually tested on in China. And China has some of the most horrific animal welfare laws. The only animal welfare law that they actually have is the number of dogs that you can take to be slaughtered at once. That's the only animal welfare law that they have in China. The way that they treat other animals is incredibly bad, and they have no legal standards of animal welfare over there. So how horrendous they must have treated these animals on this laboratory doesn't really bear thinking about. There's also, various ethical issues that some people have against the vaccine, mainly because they're concerned about their own health. They're concerned about the long-term risks of the vaccine, which we don't really yet know. And I think everyone has their own right to stand up against issues that they're against, to stand up against the testing for the COVID vaccination being done in a place like China, where they have no legal standards of animal welfare, for animal testing, for animals on testing laboratories. And I think people have an ethical right to decisions over their own body, their decision to get the vaccine, or their decision to not get the vaccine because they're concerned about the risks of it. So another main issue that I have about the vaccine passports is the fact that you can say you're medically exempt, and by law any company doing any kind of event with over 5,000 people in it, so for example a theatre, you could say that you were exempt at the theatre, and the theatre wouldn't be able to legally question you about being exempt from taking the vaccine. This means that anyone can claim they're exempt without needing to provide proof of being exempt. And so people who are anti-vax could easily say that they're exempt when they're not actually exempt. And legally they wouldn't be able to be questioned about whether they're exempt or not. The law is very, very clear about this, and that, as there's no way of really proving whether someone is or isn't exempt from the vaccine, it seems kind of ridiculous enforcing these vaccines for the unvaccinated when there's no, they don't have to prove the reason that they're unvaccinated. So another reason I think it's counterproductive to ask for COVID passports is basically the fact that you're encouraging people to, you're making people less likely to get the vaccine, basically. For some people, it's not about the risks of the vaccine itself. It's more about the fact that they're losing their liberties. It's more the fact that they're losing their liberties and they're losing their rights to do things that normal people are able to do, like go to the theatre or go to a festival. It's the fact that they don't want the government to have certain elements of their medical history. They don't want it to, you know, society to turn into a kind of police state. You know, if it's making sure you got your COVID vaccine, what about other vaccines like the HPV vaccine? What about, you know, other medical information that they might want you to disclose, like your HIV status? It's the fact that some people feel like it's a slippery slope into giving more and more and more of your medical information to the government or to certain organisations. And I think that that's a valid criticism. And I think that if you had a situation, you know, if it was like, take the vaccine if you want, don't take the vaccine if you don't want, I think there are a substantial amount of people that would be more inclined to get the vaccine, because it's nothing to do with if you don't get the vaccine will reduce your liberties kind of thing. There's also an issue with the fact that when you're reducing people's liberties, so you're, you know, saying you can't experience normal things that most people are able to do if you know, don't have the vaccine. The people who are very, you know, very anti-vax are more likely to kind of get together and are more likely to go on protests and things like that, because it becomes a much bigger thing for them. If, you know, you're not getting the vaccine because you're worried about the side effects, fine. And I don't think you would, you know, but you wouldn't go on a protest about that unless you were losing certain rights because you were unvaccinated. And these protests in London, these kind of freedom protests, they're a harbour for the virus. You know, you're getting, you know, so many people that don't have the vaccine all together in one space in a massive march, and they're more likely to spread it between them because they're unvaccinated. And so I think that giving people, you know, a kind of system where you like have the vaccine if you want, don't have the vaccine if you don't want, is a much better system, because people aren't going to be as angry about losing their liberties, they're less likely to protest about it, and they're more likely to get the vaccine. And so yeah, that's the reasons that I don't think that vaccine passports are a good idea. If you've got any comments, leave them in the comments section down below. And yeah, feel free to subscribe and like this video.